Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gretchen, and today I'm here with another Women's Prize for Nonfiction long list review, and today's pick is What the Wild Seas Can Be by Helen Scales. So Helen Scales is a renowned marine biologist, and in this book she focuses on the future of our oceans as the looming threat of a worsening climate crisis seems more and more inevitable as the days pass. This book was definitely up my alley and one of the ones I was really looking forward to because I have always loved marine biology and anything related to the ocean. I find it fascinating, and it's always something that I feel drawn toward as far as books go. As for the book in general, this was a really easy and accessible read. And although by reading it you can clearly tell that Scales is an expert in her field, she doesn't bog the book down with a whole lot of technical and scientific language. I really enjoyed that because that to me means that a book like this could easily be picked up by younger adults as well as older adults as well, and they're still going to be able to follow along. And it didn't read like a textbook either, which is always something that I'm concerned about anytime I read a piece of nonfiction that is even remotely related to any type of science. I also really loved the structural approach that Scales took to this book as well. She addressed each chapter with a different type of sea life, and we covered a wide range of creatures. We talked about, or there were chapters that covered penguins and coral and whales and sharks and sea plants, and I know that there were some other ones that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but it did feel like all areas of the ocean had some type of representation. And I love this book because anytime you're dealing with a science-based book, you're going to be hit with a lot of facts, and this was no exception, and there was so much valuable and interesting information being presented, and I always love that because I can squirrel that information away, maybe for future episodes of Jeopardy watching or, bar trivia, that type of thing. I love learning new, easy facts, and I also love that because we can pass those on and we can share them with others too. Overall, I thought this was a great read, and it was absolutely perfect for a reader like me, but I worry that this might not be a book for all audiences, and I'm going to take a few minutes to explain why I think that. Now, going into this book as somebody that personally believes that our planet is in trouble and is actively fighting against us, I was nervous to pick this book up because I was afraid it would be another one of those doom and gloom kind of prophecy books intended to scare readers into finally caring about climate science and chastise all of us for allowing our planet to get to this point. There are a lot of books out there related to climate science and oceanic conservation, and I really wondered what was going to set this book apart from all of those other books that I had read before. But what I quickly learned while reading this book is that this is probably one of the most gentle ways to deliver information on the current state of our oceans, and it's also one of the most hopeful pieces of climate nonfiction that I think that I have ever read. So often when I pick up an environmental book, by the time I get to the end, I often have a heavier heart than when I started, and oftentimes I am even more depressed on the state of things. And not only that, throughout reading books like that, I often feel like I was sitting in the principal's office the whole time being reprimanded. And that is not a feeling that I like to get because I very much believe in science. I know how horribly we have treated this planet. I know what my personal contributions over the years and throughout my lifetime have been to further advance this problem that we have. And I'm at that point now in my life where I'm looking for solutions or suggestions on how we can stop the bleeding and start treatment toward recovery instead of focusing on how we got to this point. And with this book, I feel like it's geared more toward readers in the same mindset that I'm in. We're tired of pointing fingers. We know we can't change the past, and our only hope is to just focus on making the future the best it can be. And this book delivers that type of message. As much as I hate to say this because it sounds so defeatist, climate science in the United States specifically, because I can only speak to that because that is the reality that I live in and I'm a part of. The ideas around climate science are so politicized, and I honestly don't know if there is any way to convince a non-believer to embrace a more eco-friendly lifestyle unless their trusted politicians told them to. Personally, this type of book I don't think is going to be the one that you would want to get into the hands of somebody you're trying to convince that climate science is real, and believe that our actions are destroying our oceans, which will ultimately destroy our planet. But if you have people in your life or readers in your life that do believe in climate change, this is a type of book that's going to give them that level of hope, but also give them actionable items that they can incorporate into their day-to-day lives and hopefully help contribute to a brighter future. And like I said before, I don't necessarily want to focus on how we got to this point. We want to stop the bleeding and we want to start treatment to recover. And we're not going to, another message that this book is very clear about is that we're never going to get back, we're never going to make a full recovery. That is not an option at this point, but we can recover and we can still have a good quality of life in the future because we can start to make those positive changes and progress instead of revert. And that is, you know, my probably biggest takeaway from this book, which I really appreciated. So all in all, I had a really good time with this. It had that perfect balance of information. It had a lot of anecdotal stories too from Helen Scales's life as a marine biologist. So if any of you out there are fans of marine biology and anything related to the sea, and also are those advocates for our planets, I highly recommend picking this one up. And since I finished reading this book, they have announced the shortlist, and I was so glad to see that this book made it. I don't know how this happened, but of the 6 titles that I have chosen to read for the Nonfiction Prize so far, 4 of them were shortlisted. So that was A Story of the Heart, A Thousand Threads, What the Wild Seas Can Be, and then I also just finished Raising Hair yesterday, so I will be putting together a review and a video for that one as well. The other 2 books are Private Revolutions, which I have a copy of, as well as Agent Zoe, which I also obviously have a copy of for at least a couple more weeks. I was just able to get those from the library. So it's looking good for me to hopefully at least read the entirety of the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction this year. I'm also starting to see some of my holds come through for the Women's Prize and the International Booker. I had really struggled. I must have been late to the party because once they announced those long lists and I had a chance to get my hold requests in, they were so long, and now more of them are starting to come in. So I have several books in my possession now for those 2 prizes that I'll get a chance to start reading soon. So what that means for content on my channel is we'll still have a few more reviews for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction. You'll start to see my fiction reviews come out, and and I also have finished some of the international booker ones too. So there's definitely more to come as far as this year's prize season goes, and until we read again, bye!